Hello, this is Team Apple. We choose Workplace by Facebook as our brief. While knowledge workers depend more and more on technology during work, ethical problems are emerging along with new technologies. Among these problems, the moral notion of privacy and the threat to privacy posed by the new possibilities of surveillance are the most pressing ones. These concerns also happen for online team collaboration tools like Workplace by Facebook. So we decided to examine surveillance and privacy within our brief. During our early research, we found that within Workplace by Facebook, there may be a gap between people's perception on the surveillance they have received and the actual surveillance conducted on them. This gap may cause people's failure to control and protect their privacy efficiently and thoroughly. So we decided to further explore people's perceptions on surveillance and privacy in workplace and the factors work behind. In our research, we define surveillance as computer-mediated workplace surveillance, which is electronic surveillance of people's activities by the computer technology. It is referred as surveillance below. We will then use methods including surveys, interviews, and data scraping for our questions.
Above all, to find out how people perceive surveillance within Workplace by Facebook, we sent 250 online questionnaires to users who followed or commented Workplace by Facebook on social media, and we received 12 responses. Among 12 respondents, only 58% of them think they are being surveilled. Besides, when asking what information was surveilled, they chose post mostly, but with only 75%. Moreover, few of them think they are surveilled by their company's superiors and colleagues. Compared with the workplace privacy policy, we find that people's perception on the surveillance they have received is far from the actual surveillance conducted on them, especially on what and how much is being surveilled and who is surveilling. Based on this gap, we decided to explore people's perceptions on surveillance and privacy in this workplace. We did our second survey. Almost all of our respondents think they are being surveilled. They believe their information, as we mentioned, is largely collected. However, they think that some of those information should not be collected, such as the information of web visits and the social media. In addition, over half of them feel that they can control their privacy and their privacy can be protected well by the surveillance. Also, they are controversial in whether surveillance in workplace is necessary, as about 40% people regard it is necessary, while around 30% people think it's unnecessary. To conclude, we think that people may have certain cognition about what kind of information and how much information should be surveilled, but the perceptions of surveillance still flow within different contexts, as people are unsure about the necessity and effects of surveillance. Also, people's belief of privacy may flow along with how surveillance is conducted. There are some limitations inside these two surveys. Firstly, the samples in the first survey are too few to draw a representative conclusion. Secondly, the responses we got in these two surveys are not specific enough.
To obtain more in-depth answers around people's perceptions on surveillance and privacy, we developed online interviews to 11 people from diverse occupations. Our conclusions are as below. Firstly, in terms of digital surveillance in workplace, 81% respondents indicated that they were clearly aware of being monitored and felt uncomfortable with the surveillance. Secondly, people acknowledged the functions of surveillance are in majority, accounting for 63%. Thirdly, nearly half of them assume that all mentioned above should not be spied on. For example, working emails, related information on social media. Fourthly, so far they all said they have not been troubled by digital surveillance. However, they have little confidence in controlling their privacy. Lastly, it is worth noting that attitudes of people from all walks of life toward digital surveillance vary from individuals to individuals. In terms of limitations of interviews, firstly, as in-depth interviews based on questionnaires, the range of age is narrow, causing attitudes towards surveillance not comprehensive. Secondly, questions are overlapped as well as the setting of options, thus making respondents confused. Thirdly, there are a lack of deep problems such as the fundamental exploration of the technical issues involved in privacy and surveillance, which is attributed to the ignorance of interviewee regulators and technicians while choosing interviewing targets.
To check people's perceptions further, we searched workplace privacy and employee privacy on Twitter and Weibo. We scrap the post of results and use discourse analyze to see people's attitudes on surveillance and privacy. We classify their general sentiment attributes to surveillance as follows: irrelevant, positive, negative, and neutral. The results are then presented in numbers from 0 to 3. In all, we download 160 tweets and 400 Weibo posts. On Twitter, most of the attitude about privacy are neutral. People just state they know they are being surveilled, but the problem of privacy is acceptable. On Weibo, most people are unsatisfied with their privacy in the workplace. To summarize, we find that generally users on Twitter and Weibo's perceptions about surveillance and its effect on privacy are negative, which make us to consider the balance between privacy and surveillance in the workplace. Some of the main ideas are shown as listed. On the other hand, positive attitudes show that people's perception of privacy flows with the conduct of surveillance. However, there are limitations of this discourse research. The biggest disadvantages of discourse analysis is it doesn't provide a tangible answer to problems based on scientific research, and it doesn't provide absolute answers to a specific problem.
For our future plan, firstly, we will try to have a more complete understanding about surveillance and its relationship with privacy. Then we will try to find factors that affect people's perceptions on privacy more critically and broadly, such as through experiments. Finally, we will try to approach the balance between privacy and surveillance in workplace and its further implications.